Let's move. Blaze of justice. We stand as one. Are you gonna give me orders?
Welcome back, everyone. We are about to get into a Terran versus Protoss that I am personally looking forward to. Welcome back to TSL 5, sponsored by Ting, Shopify, Secret Lab, and Twitch. I am casting with Wardy, and how excited are you, Wardy, for this match, TY versus ShoWTimE?
I'm really excited because I feel like ShoWTimE is always the one in Europe from Protoss that we're looking at a lot and expecting good things out of, and TY is always great. And these are two players you don't really meet that often. They've actually only ever met 5 times. And TY has won every single one of those encounters, the last 2 being 2-0s, and the last one being in the June of last year. So it's been almost a year since they last met. But I do feel like ShoWTimE is good enough to at least challenge TY, you know? I really don't think this should just be like a TY, stomp and, completely one-sided affair. So, yeah, I'm really excited for this. Definitely feels like one that should be good fun. TY looked good against Horstrom yesterday, but did drop a map along the way, so definitely feels like ShoWTimE has some opportunity. Yeah, I'm really excited. I think this should be good as we get ready to begin. Momentarily here, pretty much ready to go straight into this next best of 5, which is awesome. All the StarCraft just keeps on coming.
Yes, it does. Best of 5 is a wonderful way to do things as well. We're only halfway through the day, and we've already cast 4 of them. It's going to be our 5th one. Our last Korean, if I'm not mistaken, as well. So it's getting a little bit late over there. But I, too, am looking forward to what ShoWTimE has to show us. It feels like every time I hype this guy up for his PVT especially, and then like all the chances he can have against our Korean players who usually dominate, very stereotypically the StarCraft 2 scene. It feels like I am a little bit let down, I'm a bit of a bummer. But I just always feel like one day he's going to do it. He's going to find the magic thing that works, and he's going to actually not even just win against one of these Korean Terrans, but also like bop him. I have such faith that it's going to happen. Maybe it happens here. Hearthstone did actually take a game off of TY, made TY look a little bit, like weak to PvT is not the right word, but obviously human. Maybe that's the right word. He looks human when it comes to TVP. But TY was also really doing some very odd things. So does ShoWTimE getting the preparation and watch that series? Does he actually perform better than Hearthstone? We're going to find out. Game number 1 here, the bottom right. That is the right Terran. We have TY.
Taking on Blue Protoss, it is ShoWTimE.
Maybe I shouldn't say this, but these sound effects kind of remind me of like the 4 days that I played Animal Crossing. Yeah, that's the one. It feels like, I don't know.
Really?
But yeah, I didn't play it for very long, so I've already forgotten all the things about it, but it felt like whenever I would open up a new recipe, it'd be like, ba-ba! And be like,
I guess so.
Well, you've been playing a lot more, so maybe I'm just
Yes,
totally
I have been
correct.
playing Animal Crossing every day.
When I figured out that it was a decorator sim, I was like, oh, I'm not much of a decorator.
Neither am I, which is what makes it such a challenge, CG.
Oh, okay, all right. So you'll watch these videos of people like recreating the streets of Tokyo, and you're like, yeah.
And I'm not like, I made a mountain, and there's a river.
Whoa, man. You made a mountain?
Well, a hill.
Oh, okay. Well, that's
Mountains going a bit far.
That is definitely an overstatement. That's amazing. Well, it's kind of like, it's a thing that you have to walk over, so,
Yeah, you gotta you need like a ramp to get up to it, right? Like, I'm gonna take it.
Okay, well, all right. Anyways, I'm more on the Harvest Moon, kick myself. I like making money through selling farms. You're in a Stardew Valley, though. Isn't that weird? Like, they're basically the same thing. And many people say the Stardew Valley is a lot better, but I don't know, man. Maybe the waifus aren't as good.
With this bunker coming up, TY. If he gets that bunker up, this is really bad for ShoWTimE. Because this is something which shouldn't really be allowed to get up, and if it does, it just delays things a lot, forces a shield battery you don't really want to build just yet, and well, your depth won't be down there in time to deny that bunker, so yep, this is going to be bunker up, and unfortunate for ShoWTimE not to check this. I'm surprised he doesn't check this, because it's the kind of thing that Clem likes to do a lot. And Clem is the sort of player that ShoWTimE will probably play a lot on the ladder. So yeah, that's to me that's a little bit surprising that he doesn't check for it, because it's the sort of thing it's not unheard of.
Right. Well, we saw Future doing it a lot yesterday, really trying to throw his opponent off with it. It didn't really ever work out. I mean, against ShoWTimE actually. So I am also kind of surprised. But maybe having to be reminded of it, unfortunately, in such a cruel way, that always sucks. But I'm guessing he's going to be looking for it from here on out. It's something that isn't the biggest deal. To consider it like the biggest deal and, you know, make a robo immediately and mess up your own build and whatnot, like that's where you start to really take issues with it. But calmly just continuing to make units like you usually would out of your gateway and then building a single shield battery like he did, that's the way to do it. TY, I mean, gets a little bit of scouting, it's a little bit of harassment, doing his own thing back here. I'm very curious to see if we'll see another Battlecruiser build from our Red Terran. He is transferring over to a tech lab. This might just be, for a Raven, actually. That's a very fast Raven. It's usually not how I would see the Raven be added in, but okay. Either way, it is a Raven-based build. Out into bio, but we did see a mech game. Okay, bio.
Still like the way that TY opens it, though, because that bunker across the map keeps ShoWTimE at home, so TY can get up on the CC on the natural, no issue at all. It forces the shield battery ShoWTimE doesn't usually want. Now you get this Raven up from TY, and it's the sort of thing where if there are a lot of like gateway units on the map, you maybe have to get like a Cyclone or so first, or a Siege tank just to help out. In this case, you really just do not need that. And that just allows TY to get away with that Raven, which can now maybe come across, drop some auto turrets, go for some probes, or can just stay in the army, watch for an observer showing up. Ravens have a lot of uses in the TVP, and they especially power up that main attack when you first hit. If you're going to go for this 3-racks opener, they can really come through, and you know, an interference matrix, if they try and go fast, Colossus can be a game changer. An anti-armor missile can really just, again, you know, power you up that little bit further as well. So
it's a pretty fast one too. Like he only went for that one Widowmine, no Widowmine drop for certain, and just really directly into the tech lab being used on the starport. So you're all right about the Raven, of course. Like those are the options that you have, and it can be a very powerful tool in the hands of a person who's actually going to immediately lose it. Either it's going to be very, very helpful. But we have seen it really just be pushed away from. Like it's something you can do with the setup that you have here as TY, but a lot more often. Oh, Widowmine got the stalker there. A lot more often, we're seeing directly into the two tech labs for stim and combat shields, or even stim, you know, much faster. The Raven build was, I feel, so much more common 4 months ago, 5, 6, something like that. So it's going to be maybe a surprise for ShoWTimE, who's not going to be in danger of getting his Colossus interference matrix because he doesn't go for Colossus, but definitely could miss the opportunity to snipe it. In this case, well, of course he missed the opportunity to snipe it. It's already on the other side of the map going for some harassment. I'll give him the knowledge of it, though. Be quick pull away.
I was going to be seeing a couple probes going down. This is already kind of what you want here as TY, just a bit of light harassment. He's going to go for the Stalker here, which feels like a mistake because that definitely feels like it could have been a few probes considering how slow ShoWTimE was to pull them. There's a shield battery right there, so maybe a little bit of a missed opportunity as TY. And so Army going to start coming across the map. Of course, this is where ShoWTimE wants to try and slow this down as much as possible with the blink, but that's also where TY is going to try and punish ShoWTimE, you know, by making sure there's harassment elsewhere on the map with the Raven, with his Widowmine drop. ShoWTimE's dealing with it well, though. He is going to blink and get the medevac, and the Widowmines will get just a couple of probes in the main. But because he's focusing on all of this, it's now allowed TY's army to come straight across the map without having to deal with that Stalker harassment.
Yeah, it was a bit of an opening opportunity there, that's for sure. The Stalkers were not really plentiful enough to do very much, but without combat shields being done, maybe they could have picked off a couple of Marines. Having to deal with everything else, though, it's not really possible. The army moves in, and it's still a sizable one, even though combat shields is not done. Widowmine's looking for great shots, actually found a Zealot injuring and then actually killing the Sentry's the Guardian Shield, but he has another one. He needs more Zealots here. Medevac count also not as high as it usually is, with the one being used for Widowmine drop. Here comes a second one. ShoWTimE looks like he just barely doesn't have enough, because there's also a drop in the main base, killing a couple of probes. Not many units, but enough to get 9. At least he does hold on to his third base, but getting 10 probes killed, that was pretty nasty, all before his +1 was done. The combat shields might be something that helped him out there, but he still took a lot of damage.
Yeah, this was brutal, especially the drop in the main, getting so many probes as well. This is, I think that's actually the main thing, because actually if you just about push away that drop on the third base or the attack on the third base, and I think it's okay. But the rest of it all combined, it's just a little bit too much.
It's something that maybe if he has a warp prism and he's actually returning the damage, it's not too bad. But on top of the probes, there was actually just a significant trade of like the army. So many zealots went down when usually you would hope that they would do more in like the first or second wave would actually push it back immediately. It took a long time, and of course the probes also died. ShoWTimE does try and go swiftly into his +1, trying to catch up on those upgrades. The TY, he's almost already done on that, and he should be ready for another push. Just needs the Widowmine count back up. Got Marauders now as well. And this is going to be also very difficult to hold. ShoWTimE going to maybe go into Disruptors. It's one of my preferred ways for him to play. I think it's very fun to watch and can definitely throw off most Terran players who don't anticipate having to deal with them this early. But whether it's Colossus or Disruptors, they're not going to be out for this push.
Yeah, it's going to be the tough part, right? That you know, TY just did enough earlier, and now he's coming through this bottom side. He's going to work his way through the rocks and then get up to this high ground. It's just Zealots and Stalkers, right, with an upgrade disadvantage. It's going to be tough. Meanwhile, Widowmine's back into the main base. ShoWTimE not paying attention, so there goes 10 workers again. And TY's just like, yeah, cool. Let's back away. Don't even need a fight. Get my ghosts up and continue to build my own tech up. And that's going to be really good for me.
That is so much left over. Zealots going all the way across town to try and do something are forced to retreat, but good news is they can. Immediately into +2. TY, the Macro Master, already on his two upgrades. I don't think ShoWTimE really has the ability to afford Double Forge, nor does I guess you technically have to. I certainly would prefer the gas of his to go into the Disruptors. Not just because I'm personally biased, but I think it's the better choice. Now, Disruptors don't get an advantage from the attack upgrade here, but if they're caught off guard, one armor isn't going to help them either. So really the rest of the army still looking fearsome if they can get to the same upgrade. But it's a lot about these Disruptors, a lot about stopping TY from getting any type of concave. ShoWTimE can hold the 3 bases probably no problem. Reaching towards the 4th, though, that's going to be more difficult.
Yeah, just going to be seeing the +2 attack and the Disruptors. I mean, if ShoWTimE can get there, I believe. Just feels like how what sort of position does he get there in as well, I suppose. There's a big drop into the main base. TY flies in the Stalkers to make this happen. The Ghost included in this. Now you have to kind of push up your own ramp into your main unless you can recall into the main. As the first Disruptor will lead the charge. The Widowmine's obviously zoned this entry, and he actually gets shots onto the Disruptors. Bringing them lower makes them a bit easier to target down during a fight. And it's going to be a bit too much here, and TY's going to lift and try and get out. The Blink will find one empty medevac. At the same time, the Raven in the back of the third base, but ShoWTimE dealing with it well, and it feels like this attack especially, didn't really go that well for TY.
I don't think he was anticipating as many units as there were in the main base. Like, they didn't stop the drop from happening, but they immediately getting 2 medevacs and, buying time for his army to respond before really important structures went down. Like, that all is pretty important. And then he stopped taking damage from all these little miscellaneous attacks, too. Good pull away from the Raven auto turret, and even getting the Raven is TY, I guess, maybe kind of willing to stop paying attention to that. It's not the worst trade, but it could have just stayed back there with no Stargate. It could have been continued harassment, or it could have been joined up for a couple interference matrix. At this point, the Disruptor count has grown, so 1 or 2 interference matrix wouldn't make the big difference, but no doubt it is helpful. Now TY is looking more towards a big concave, and actually his choice is not to necessarily add on Liberators. He's added some, but he's actually gone back into tanks. He had a second factory, and I don't know, I was thinking TVZ and didn't think very much of it, but that's actually not the usual choice there for dealing with Disruptors. We'll see how that works out.
It's going to have our Liberators set up across this bottom side, and makes it hard for ShoWTimE to really get in with the larger army. So we're already getting towards that kind of stalematy position where these guys can't really attack into each other, and in a way, this is kind of what I expected from ShoWTimE and TY. Just both players who are very happy to sit back on defensive units and let the game play out, and ShoWTimE was kind of more forced into it with the way that the game went. And TY almost tried to press the issue a bit too far. Now he's realized that he's almost like, okay, yeah, let's get the tanks, let's get the libs. Yeah, the tanks are a bit of a... It almost is like he just wants to say, okay, let's sit back, let's not do anything, let's just get the tanks up, sit at home, and yeah, just defend. It definitely doesn't promote him going out on the map and fighting, which is definitely different to usual, as this is nice, though. It gets 2 of the Disruptors. Now these Zealots and Stalkers trying to fight this will be just a little bit outnumbered.
Yeah, the balance here wasn't quite correct. The more army was to the north side for TY, but less so for ShoWTimE. So he deals with this, no problem, because all of his Disruptors are down here, but they should have been up to the natural, helping defend this. TY is not going to overstep, but he did actually just take down a lot of expensive units. That was still a very, very nice attack. And while he initially was more so on, like, he was adding in more units that definitely weren't mobile, he was keeping the pressure up. If they didn't do any damage, that's okay, because this was really the main push he was thinking of. But he did damage, and now he has this push still ready to go, and this is going to be very difficult for ShoWTimE to defend against, especially because I'm not sure he's ready to deal with tanks. Did he actually ever see those building? And I can almost guarantee he never saw that as a reaction, or very rarely.
Guy on the bottom side going to go pick away at this bottom left Nexus, but a couple of DTs will be there. He gets scanned, so TY handles it well. Giving the pressure up, always in 2 positions, and now it's allowed him to get these Liberators in location. And I guess these tanks are going to work very well. Wow. ShoWTimE just doesn't even want to go for the fight. Just lost too much up until now. And that's going to be it as TY closes out a game 1 where he was in control for the most of it, but definitely maybe wasn't as clean as we expected after he took an initial lead.
One of the biggest problems is that he never got out on the map, for sure. Like, it's great that he survived, because maybe there's a game where he just ends up losing because 10 probes is way too much that early on. But it's great while he survived, he never got to control the map, which makes Disruptors a lot more potent, which gets you on top of siege units. Usually we're talking about Liberators, but in this case we're also tanks. You can stop and start the pushes of the Terran, force them to siege and re-siege. You can catch them out of position. You can send in run-bys, so the Disruptors get better hits as well because they're so distracted. TY didn't necessarily win with any of his harassment, but he won in terms of just the control over the game. It was always him attacking ShoWTimE, taking the big trades, and then macroing flawlessly, because nothing was happening on his side of the map. Those couple of Zealots failed and then didn't really try again. It's very different if ShoWTimE gets a Warp Prism with 7 DTs in to bring the momentum back to him, then gets on TY's side of the map in his face. It looks very different. But when it's all reserved like that, when it's all on his own side of the map and his own bases, if you're up against someone like TY, who knows how to transition, who knows to add on XY unit, like, it's going to be tough.
Yep. It's really as tough as we get into game number 2. Going into Zen, ShoWTimE down by 1. TY taking that lead. And let's see what ShoWTimE can do to bounce back a little bit. After watching this first game, I'm not really too worried for him. I feel like he definitely has the potential to defend the attack, stay in the game, and make a game out of this. So let's see what happens in game number 2. I think more than anything to really start seeing what... I just don't want to say, like, oh my god, TY looks so good in this game. Let's kind of go from here. As, wow, yeah, Matthew's actually pointing out the fact that this was no pro build before he built the pylon. That's very weird.
Well, this could be very aggressive, very intentionally going for a 14 or 13 gateway here. Sorry. It is in the bottom left on Zen. ShoWTimE.
It does mean that in the upper right side, our red Terran player is TY.
All right, aggressive stuff here from ShoWTimE on one of the shortest maps, again, using the middle if you can. So no Ultras, no Thors through there, but Zealots, absolutely. Adepts, absolutely. It's the shortest map we have, especially since Terrans very much so do not block out that mineral patch, at least not that quickly in the natural. Ooh, but this gets really awkward. Getting the Zealot surprise on the command center on the low ground, killing the SCV, following up with an Adept, that snowballs. But if TY goes for his own more so one-base build, like they're probably both planning to expand, but if TY also goes for his own one-base build, there was a factory, or in this case, 2 barracks, that is no longer a snowball potential, I think, that favors ShoWTimE. In fact, I feel like this is going to do well against what ShoWTimE's doing, but we very rarely see this scenario. The fast gateway versus the fast 2 racks. No Zealot was made, so that's a good not 100 minerals wasted against 2 Reapers, 3 Reapers. But the faster Adept or Stalk or whatever he's going to make out of this is, I feel like, also not going to do very much. Adept's chronoed out here. So Adept is going to be really easily taken out by a couple of Reapers. The thing is, like, 1 Reaper is difficult. Like, it takes a In the hands of a master, one Reaper can do a lot against early aggression, but it's typically just outnumbered or just outpowered, outgunned. But when you add in one or two more grenades, especially the crowd control that Reapers have, that's when the limited production capability of a one gateway Protoss, even if it was early, might start to really fall off here. On the other hand, if he realizes this quickly enough and is able to send that Adept back home, he does have some defenses already set up for this and might not take as much damage. In fact, already getting the Reaper, that's not what I was expecting. I thought TY was going to have one Reaper alive, Scout and the Adept, 2 Reapers, 3 Reapers suddenly. That's actually a fairly good start for ShoWTimE.
Yeah, it's you commit to like a Reaper-based opener, you lose one already. 2 Reapers against this Adept, they'll win that fight. I kind of thought he might have, I guess with the shade going up the ramp, if he goes for the SCV kill, he loses the Adept, but maybe if he didn't shade up the ramp to see what was up and he had a shade back, he could have got an SCV there. So yeah, 2 Reapers alone, not that scary. In the end, ShoWTimE going to respect it and just go back home. Look at TY, fast concussive shells as a follow-up. Maybe give him some option to get out onto the map and deal some damage.
So he did this against Harsum, like this exact build and these exact positions on this exact map. The 3 Reapers didn't do like a whole heck of a lot as far as I remember, but I think there were 3 Reapers, one didn't die. But the follow-up was scouted, which was really quite crucial. There was a probe, a very sneaky MVP probe that was able to see everything that went down. That was the game that Harsum won. This game, you don't have that happening. There is no sneaky probe going behind enemy lines, parachuting in, and seeing what it shouldn't see. So while ShoWTimE might feel okay about, hey, I didn't get any damage taken from the Reapers, I killed one, so that's nice for me, he doesn't know about the follow-up, although he did see the tech lab. He might know enough. I can almost guarantee he watched the VODs from yesterday. Martyr Slow was indeed canceled. Well, this could be mind game on mind game. You know, he watched the VODs. TY figured he watched the VODs, isn't going to commit to it. Because I think what Harsum scouted was going to be an attack. What TY was doing in this build was going to be an attack. In both games, TY kind of gets scouted. This time a little less so, but maybe enough for him not to commit to it. So on to the 3 racks, adding on the technology afterwards. It's a bit more awkward, but we do end up with the same result, which is 3 racks, 1-1, medevac drops, you name it. The other thing TY did in this map, though, was abuse this right position that we just saw there from Mapu. It didn't go that well, though. So I'm going to guess that that's going to be the big difference of this game, as well as... Oh, no, he's going to go into Colossus. Okay, yeah. I'd say that is the biggest difference then, not abusing this right side. But we do have Colossus once more on Zen from our Protoss.
Which is a nice change up from how ShoWTimE played it in the last game. You know, last game really went for the heavier gateway account. This time going to play into the heavier tech. Zen map, which is quite droppable and maybe easy to pull apart, like, you know, a Colossus opener, but it's also, to take 3 bases, like, if you attack straight up into base and the Colossi are positioned well, it's really only one choke you can attack into, right? So then the Colossus does very well in that scenario, holds on rather easily, rather than, it's very hard to get, like, units out onto the map for, like, a bit of a flank in with, like, you know, charge dots and stalkers, if that's how you're going to play. So I don't mind this as a switch up here on Zen, as the hallucination from ShoWTimE keeps him full of information.
I'm actually glad he did it. I didn't see he taking all his gases, so I was just kind of assuming, since last game for Twilight Council only. No, I'm actually really glad we saw the robotics way put down, and that was his plan from the get-go. The third Nexus being delayed actually was a bit of a favor. He slapped it down again, unfortunately a bit too awkwardly timed. Does get the cancel at the very least, and did actually cause a kind of a premature stim. I think TY stim thinking engagement might happen, but he's pulling back anyways. Going for a drop with the medevac, in fact, and ShoWTimE sending a probe out is like, okay, now I can take it?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Finally. Obviously, it's meant to be a later third base. That's the whole point of the Colossus. It's hard to defend 3 different bases when you really are just set up on, you know, one Colossus initially and so on. So, yeah, just nice to be able to kind of take that a bit later. That's the entire point of ShoWTimE's style here. And Mr. TY's third base coming up a bit later as well. It's actually going to be a faster third base than ShoWTimE this game. And just gives them a bit more eco to kind of fight the heavier tech army of ShoWTimE. So just a different kind of set of roles in this second map compared to what we saw the first time around.
I'll see why not getting any damage done is getting that superior macro. Well, slightly anyways. The third already down. Still looking quite good, but ShoWTimE, I think, finding himself in a very comfortable position. No exchanges like last game where he lost probes. It might have taken an okay engagement. He's not lost probes. He's kept all of his Colossus alive, and they're getting to a number which is also really nice to split as well. TY is not really thinking, I think, that like he could go for a lot of harassment. He is going to once again try and use that right side, but no tanks, no, staying here, I would say. But he is building a Viking count. So I'm thinking he's looking for more in a direct engagement in a minute or two than actually thinking he can do something in the main or in the third. In fact, his combat shield was quite late. I think he just forgot that. I assumed he had it, but I see that researching.
Yeah, the stim for a long time before he started up anything else. This full Widowmine drop going to get a whole bunch of probes. It's a really nice catch as the medevac then just tails away with the rest of the army. So again, just keeping ShoWTimE's economy, taking some hits throughout this. And now just going to be seeing the combat shield's going to be done soon. TY not really on like double starboard or anything though, right? So he really is just building a couple of Vikings at a time. So yes, a straight up fight, but not a straight up fight that he's hunting down in the immediate future. More so just he's happy to kind of take a fight here or a fight there, but he's not like ready to just run across and be like, okay, ShoWTimE, let's do this on your third base. Otherwise he'd have gone double starboard much sooner. He's much more preparing for the late game. We saw the armory, 2-2 upgrades can start. He also got the Ghost Academy, so already moving his way into Ghosts, and then you get into that real kind of dream comp where you can hit, lather the Protoss army and EMPs. Then you follow up the Vikings take down Colossi very quick from there because they have no shields. That's where it gets very dangerous, it feels, for ShoWTimE, but of course, that's the point where he's already playing with the second AoE choice, which in this case is going to be High Templars initially. Looks like he just wants to get Archons, didn't start Storm right away. So just playing Archons for the moment, and Storm maybe a bit further down the line.
Yeah, both of them really going for that late game perfect army, which it seems like TY is getting there just a little bit faster. Not just the Ghost and Vikings already being in nice numbers, but also that 2-2 well on its way, whereas ShoWTimE, part of it is not having a double forge again for the Colossus, but you would expect the double forge eventually to kick in and then start catching up. This might take a little while here. The Vikings were one time patrolling this War Prism path, but no longer. Missile turret's not going to be enough. It might only even get like one hit on that. So that is going to be not even a hit. It's going to be a big distraction. Instant response there. TY figures his reinforcements can take care of this, which they can. The TY was sizing up in the middle of the map. Now it's ShoWTimE taking the middle of the map, preparing his army for potential engagement or finding forward, Vikings, something along those lines. And you can't really attack through the middle of this, mineral patch because that just gets awkward for both sides.
Yeah. That's the sort of position you never want to fight in, right? Because then it's actually probably a bit better for the Terran, right? Because at least then the Vikings can kind of shoot over the ledge and maybe get the Colossi a little bit. But yeah, it's not really a fight that either of them will be looking for. Nice catch here from ShoWTimE. Grabs a medevac out to the bottom side. Now he's going to recall those Stalkers, so they're ready in the fight to protect the Colossus. Really great play here from ShoWTimE. Big EMPs though initially from the Ghost, but mostly only landed on the Stalkers. So the Zealot's still tanky in the front. The Archon's still full of shields. And it feels like ShoWTimE's somewhat ready to fight this. He's kind of happy to go for it. He's trying to force it, just not running into all of those EMPs at the same time.
I'd be a little bit scared about this. He might be seeing that it's 1-1, but that was only true for just another second. Literally 2-2 finishes right now for TY. So is this really the opportunity he was looking for? He's forcing TY to stim and retreat. So I guess push him back while you can. But he might have to reevaluate how he takes the engagement. Certainly, he had that issue with the Vikings again. Where are they? Okay, they might get on the left side. Those Colossus were a little vulnerable. ShoWTimE's about to have his own +2, but that upgrade, the concave, the EMPs, he does try to split away a little bit from that. Still has a Guardian Shield left over. This is good control from ShoWTimE for sure.
Yeah, I'm not sure about the fight though after taking the EMPs across what felt like a lot of the important units here. The sentries only have this Guardian Shield. The Colossi all got hit as well, so the Vikings do make pretty quick work of them. And during this fight, the Colossi are hitting the supply depot, which means they're not dealing enough damage to the army. Doesn't matter, does ShoWTimE just have enough anyway? It feels like he might. The Archons in the front did tank for a long time here. Now the SCVs are pulling in. Well, there's not a lot that's really good at dealing with the SCVs. Like, there's no Archons left. There's not many Zealots that were in the front. But in the end, well, if the SCV pull TY's hold on just that little bit longer, the extra wave of Zealots may very well just be a bit too much in the end, though, as ShoWTimE's going to go in for round 2.
Yeah, that was Bold moving from ShoWTimE, but I think the Archon's not being EMP'd was a big contributor to that fight. TY also was in such a big arch that he didn't actually get a lot of fighting done. But with reinforcements kicking in just enough. The Immortal's all gone, the Archon's all gone. The bio coming in off of 4 bases is going to be enough. What a trade. The 90 SCV loss is definitely worth if it means that you're going to survive, but you can't really take any more damage, and unfortunately is going to happen. The Warp Prism heads over to the main base, and TY definitely doesn't have enough to spread across multiple bases. The choke actually works out well, but once again at the cost of SCVs, and the Warp Prism still lives. And behind this, ShoWTimE was developing a different type of army. I mean, the Vikings had all been traded out, so he could have gone into more Colossus, and in fact, he does, but he was also added on Disruptors, getting his own upgrades caught up as well. That was a scary moment. That was almost game over, but as we take in everything that's gone into that fight, into this game, it actually still might be game over. ShoWTimE has a 30 supply lead here, mostly in workers, yes, but now with a complex army. Matching upgrades in just 20 seconds. I don't think TY gets a counter. I think his best bet is actually to turtle and hope that defensively he takes another good fight. Or his first good fight.
Yeah, this is, it's just tough to rebuild at this point from TY, right? Everything he wants to build is so expensive, and he's stuck on such a low economy. It's just like, I'm amazed he almost got 3-3 out here, right? Or he started up 3-3 during all of this, because that felt like the sort of thing he would maybe just skip just to get a few more Ghosts and Vikings and just go for a larger push. He's going to still try and stay in this. If he can get the dream fight where the EMPs are great and maybe he just overwhelms all in one go, I really feel like that's his opportunity. I really feel like that's going to happen, I guess maybe just as 3-3 finishes. The longer it goes past 3-3 being done, obviously the more ShoWTimE's economy comes into play. 5 bases that have been untouched by a few Widowmine drops, especially recently. There's been not much at all slowing ShoWTimE down. So yeah, feels like this is becoming a bit do or die for TY as he comes out over to the far left hand side, ready for a push. Maybe if he can deny the 5th and back away as the other bases mine out, maybe that can just slow down ShoWTimE's eco enough where he can justify taking a little bit longer. But how do you deny that 5th base when this army shows up? This isn't just like a maxed out Protoss who has like a lot of Zealots in play. This is like almost purely Archons, it feels like, as the filler for the Disruptors and the Colossi. Right. And that's going to be... Well, you need a lot of EMPs to get rid of this. That's so many Archons.
A lot of cotton balls there. It's not 20, 30 Zealots, which is also intimidating. No, it's like 15 or 12 Archons. A lot of EMPs will be required. He's trying to take his left side base, but unfortunately, yeah, that traps his army. Yeah, lift that CC as well. That's not going to happen. He lifts out and gets to his own natural, which will buy him a lot more time. He actually has an attack into ShoWTimE's natural, which is going to make ShoWTimE reconsider his own engagements, or maybe actually just go for kind of a base trade scenario. No recall is available on the natural Nexus, and I guess nowhere else he's not doing it. Maybe just depending on the reinforcements. He's repositioning to attack into the natural. He doesn't know about the Viking count being so low. One of the spells actually popped out here to help. So maybe he doesn't need to worry about the Vikings at all, but that Viking count's not going to be able to take care of anything. Disruptors are not something that he can take care of except for a huge concave, which he does have. Best possible scenario there, but all of his units are kind of weak. Their upgrades are only going to matter so much compared to the amount of splash that ShoWTimE has. But he's going to deny that +3, so that's the good news. He still has the upgrade advantage. He just needs to get more Ghosts, more Vikings. This is still very scary stuff for TY, especially because ShoWTimE lost a base that wasn't really mining any much anyways. 5th base is now fully mining.
It's a loss, which is obviously... Yeah, it's sad to lose it. You still have some gas mining, but if you lose the 5th base, it's a completely different scenario in terms of denial of economy. But TY already lifting the 3rd base, so he's really saying, I just cannot fight this. I will not fight this. Not on the 3rd, at least. He comes down the ramp, so he's going to be out on the map. Maybe fighting that open area. ShoWTimE's army is kind of split up half and half, so that's a dangerous moment. But it also feels like this bio army is just pure bio. The Ghosts all up on the high ground. So yeah, it's very mobile, sure, but then if he actually has to fight the Archons, etc., it's going to be much tougher than maybe it usually should be. The Vikings coming in from the top side, looking for the Colossus. In fairness, the Stalkers aren't there to do much about it. Disruptor shot coming through, gets a couple of the Marauders. The rest of the Marauders trying to fight away, and TY, I feel like, makes a good effort of a weird situation. But ShoWTimE is again going to come out equal-ish on army supply, which when he has the work account advantage and has killed a lot of SCVs behind this with Zealots, again, he's just going to be able to rebuild once more. TY isn't already across the map ready to take advantage of the fight he's won. And that's the thing. If this fight happens on like ShoWTimE's 5th base, then TY then can just kill a 5th base, maybe run to the 4th and deal damage there before having to back off. Very different story to it happening on TY's side of the map, where by the time he attacks, ShoWTimE's already got reinforcements in play.
Yeah. For the fight, that was actually about as good as I would expect a Terran to ever take. You know, the Archons weren't really supported, so he took them out one by one. The Vikings weren't being shot down, so they actually took out the Colossus. But does he actually get another fight like that? At the very least, ShoWTimE could give up his 5th base and say, okay, that bought me time for another Colossus, Disruptor, 12 more Zealots, which TY's going to struggle to hold against, even with his upgrade advantage. DTs have also been added in. It looks like he notices that very quickly, and a scan is available, but a lot of his armor supply is also in medevacs that don't actually contribute to the DPS. Once again, a great concave, but he's not going to have a repeat success. That last-minute desperate hold, it's finally worn off, man. 2 times, he kind of got away with barely surviving this game. And finally, ShoWTimE takes the victory, so it's all tied up in a straight-up macro game. ShoWTimE finally showed us what he can do against TY, who didn't really ever get to do what he did, I suppose. So that definitely contributed to it.
Yeah, it was a... It was a fun game, right? Definitely a lot of back and forth, and I really feel like the issue for TY is he just never really had that one convincing fight. He was always just about holding on, right? Yeah. While ShoWTimE was never actually just finally getting rid of what TY had either, but he always had the advantage because his worker count was always up there. The best that TY really did across the map was like a Widow Mine drop that killed a few probes. He killed the Nexus on the natural, which we discussed, and it's like, well, that's probably just not enough at this point, but also it's just a bit too late for just killing the Nexus. So It was a tough one. It was a tough one for TY, but really hung on in there, which makes me a little bit afraid because I do feel like if he can hang on in there in a game like that looked much better for ShoWTimE. What does he do in a game where he just has that little bit of a better starter game? Does he just really get into that position where ShoWTimE can never really fight him? I feel like that's where it gets very tough.
I definitely see your point. It's like TY can hold on in a game when he was behind. So what does it mean when he's even or ahead? But let's not just say it. Like, it's not like TY just did something dumb and threw away 20 Marauders and it's never going to happen again.
No, obviously.
That was ShoWTimE sizing up an army that anyone would, especially TY, could control very well in a concave with Ghost, with some Vikings, and was like, you know what? Actually, I can take that on. And he was correct. That was actually just a macro game that ShoWTimE did correctly call. Anything past that might have been a bit of, I'm pretty sure I'm winning. Any of the more awkward engagements that happened after that. I guess also TY did have those superior upgrades, so that maybe was something that ShoWTimE didn't think would help as much as they did in some of those last engagements. But for me, that was just ShoWTimE playing a wonderful macro game, making the right decisions, and only somewhat worrying us because maybe his upgrades weren't great, because TY was so good at trying to get concaves. I'm excited now for this series even more, now that it's all tied up 1-1. I really want to see TY able to execute that Reaper into Marauder thing, though, because now at both games on Zen, we've seen him denied. So I don't know if I want him to win this series and have another TVP in the future or what, but he didn't get to do his thing in that last game. Maybe he gets to do it this game. On Everdream, in the top right, we have the blue Protoss, ShoWTimE.
And the bottom left, let's see if he can retake his lead. It is the red Terran, TY.
I wonder if, TY doesn't really like that map. Obviously, he let it through vetoes. I'm guessing Purity Industry is a veto for most of our best of fives, considering how often we've seen it. Although maybe not. There's been a few 3-0s, right? And then I don't know what else they might have vetoed, but Zen, he's done that twice now, and both times it's been scouted enough that he has to change tactics, and the Protoss player gets to kind of comfortably get to 3 bases in Colossus, right? Which is usually not the case. TY usually does something before that point of safety for the Protoss to injure them, to cripple them. Much more like that first game. So maybe that build is kind of more like a anti-Zen thing, which, hasn't worked out so far. Both of the games he's lost against the non-Korean Protosses here have been on Zen. But that's a map that's over and done with. So doesn't have to worry about that anymore. So many legs.
So many lags, which is interesting because I think this one is played on West, so this should be the server that's a little bit better for TY. They alternate between West and Central, so maybe just an actual internet thing. For a few moments here while we get this resolved here in the TSL 5. Had some great games today. I can't believe we're already over halfway through the matches. Can you believe that, CG? They've passed pretty quick, haven't they?
I can kind of believe it.
Yeah?
It has been 4, almost 5 hours.
Oh, I feel like it's just like, I don't know.
No, I think it's breezing through as well. I was going to make a joke that I had said that earlier, but it's every single day so far. Like even watching on Sunday, right? We weren't casting on last Sunday, that is. Like even watching it, I was like, damn, this went really fast. And I looked at the clock and I was like, oh no, they cast for 10 hours. Okay, no, that's my bad. So that's what happens when not only are the games and the players are great, but also the production is so smooth. That's, I think, I think you can attest to this as well, right? Like it's when you're waiting for the next match in an open bracket that it feels like it's taking forever.
This is the one thing. Like the moment there's downtime, it's like, whenever you have to wait like 15 minutes for a game, it's like it kills all your momentum. You're like, oh my god, today takes forever. If you just go from one match to the next, well, we kind of like watching StarCraft, so it's no surprise that it passes quickly, right?
Exactly. It's kind of what we chose to do with our lives, so it's like really fortunate.
Did I choose it, or did StarCraft choose me, ZG, though?
Did we choose it as a hobby and then just kind of get dragged into being paid for it? Like, oh man, I think maybe. No, it's definitely the preference. Just game after game after game. Same for the players. That is, they also just don't like the downtime. So I'm glad to see that maybe TY's leg is a little bit better. It is his preference. I mean, it's kind of still, no matter what it is on the North American server, it is still kind of unideal, but unideal for both players is the middle ground, right? So unfortunate that his favor being on US West isn't working out so well. So I'm going to go for a Widowmine drop, it looks like. ShoWTimE. I thought he was going to place down a pylon, but it looks like he is actually scouting. And he's also even going to send Hallucination. Okay, so fast sentry there.
Yeah.
Wants to know exactly what TY is doing. If he was watching the Hearthstone TY series from yesterday, then he might actually just be hyper aware that TY can do really funky stuff.
Yeah, see, TY is actually a very tricky player to play against, right? Like, I think he's the closest to Gumiho we have in TVP. Like, Gumiho always had those weird wonky builds. He would be the first to proxy the units you weren't expecting to be proxied. You know, the Concussive Shell Marauder opening was such a Gumiho thing as well. And TY really feels like he's that, replacement for Gumiho. Now Gumiho has gone. But also with such good standard play mixed in there as well. And obviously Gumiho can macro and all of that too, but TY is like a next level on top of that, right? So
yeah,
it kind of makes him such a dangerous player because you don't really ever know what to expect. And in this game, a game which is a couple Widow Mines, now a Liberator as well, looks like he really wants to pull ShoWTimE apart, because what all these units can do is you can take Widow Mines one way, you can take the Liberator another, and then a Marine tank push can just waltz up to the third base and get sieged. So let's see how he does with that. I wouldn't be surprised to see him be very passive with this Widow Mine drop to make sure he keeps it alive for when the main push comes.
He could definitely do that. If that is actually his plan, if he executes every single one of those things, which I think is very possible, then it'd be in ShoWTimE's best interest to really not dedicate to killing this. This has been a problem for some Protosses in the past, where they think, yes, taking out this drop is my number one priority. It's a freebie, actually. And then they get distracted and they don't buy any time or see a push coming. So it'd be in his best interest to just let a probe or two die. But actually being able to divvy up his Stalker numbers on this side of the map, find a Liberator really nicely done. That not only takes away another harassment potential, but helping out a potential tank push. 2 Stalkers were keeping track of this drop, which he is going to be able to blink away from and not lose any probes. Oh!
Yeah, loses the Stalker though. And he's losing a lot of mine time as well. And this is all stuff ShoWTimE has to deal with while trying to kite with the Stalkers on the map, because there is this main push coming over. So TY going to get a couple of Stalkers there already, and I love this, just swapping between the Stalkers, and he is eventually going to go off just for actually a couple of probes thanks to the splash damage. Not much left in this main attack though from TY, and ShoWTimE is in the end probably just about going to survive. The snipe on the Liberator was huge there to begin with, otherwise it's another wave of this that you would have had to deal with. And also I think the fact he got to see where the Widowmine came in from really allowed him to have a lot of Stalkers out on the map early as well. because he knew he didn't need units in the main base already, he could just position the 2 on the natural and everything else went back out on the map.
Ooh, the timing on the unsiege was... I was like, why aren't these stalkers dying? Well, because the tank's unsieged. But yeah, totally right about him having actual knowledge of like where everything was attacking and not having to be split too much apart. This was really like quite masterful control. Yeah, it could have been even more perfect, but that was really nice stuff there by ShoWTimE that could have quickly just went into a tank push in the front of his door without realizing it. It does happen to the pros. Instead, he handles it, even takes a bit of a better trade until he lost a couple stalkers there. The really nice thing from TY, though, is that he had all this potential. He really made it sound like he had all this potential, because he did. But behind all that potential, behind all that scary stuff that we were talking about, he was getting a 3rd CC. He was like really late to his production. He was really late to his stim, and his combat shields are going to be... Okay, there we go, finally starting. That was the sacrifice that he was okay making as he got a faster economy, and also kind of like made ShoWTimE heavily consider all these other possibilities. So he got away with this and saved a decent number of his tanks, all of his tanks actually. Only lost the Liberator and the Widow Mines, so that was probably worth getting his 3rd CC down as fast as he did. Now the question is his follow-up going to be quick enough to take advantage before ShoWTimE has his own upgrades and his own charge? Doesn't look like it. So now maybe more like, is it going to be ready before he gets to his disruptors? Which, if it's not, and the disruptors pop out, we're talking about that first game again, ShoWTimE actually on the offensive, actually out in the map doing something with those disruptors. That's what was missing from that first game. Could this be the game that it highlights his disruptor usage? Might be. He's even sending forward his Charge Lot Blink Sentry army to actually combat TY.
Yeah. This is
might be a little suspicious.
Not a bad moment or so, though, for TY, because Stim is just about to finish. Nice force fields across the way, though, and that's a wasted
SCV
Stim in the end. So much energy. Oh, he's pulling the boys as well, so he's really going to go
economy, man. Like, he got double upgrades, but didn't build many more SCVs and just pulls the SCVs instead. What a tricky, tricky boy. ShoWTimE, I guess, gets at least advance notice of this because he was forward like that, but he might have to seriously consider giving up his 3rd. His disruptor isn't ready. He's not ready to handle all of these SCVs as well as the army behind it.
Oh, that anti-armor missile goes right into the center of everything, and TY is like, yes, please, let's fight. All of those Zealots are going to take so much damage now, but ShoWTimE has the attack from the left side, but TY actually leaves Marines with it, and those Zealots just wander in. Their charge was on cooldown, apparently, so... Oh my goodness, this is really painful at the moment for ShoWTimE, losing a lot on the left side. 3rd base already dead, and that is not a good start to defending this attack.
I think that was just him having it all in one hotkey. There was no reason for those units to do that behind there. He was not ready to engage with the other half of the army. He did not have a disruptor. He was still Cheeto dusted. Like, that was just a mistake there. It could have been a couple more force fields or a guardian shield. The 2nd disruptor is out. He chose to give up the base, which is the right call, but the 2nd disruptor is instantly sniped. Still enough medevac energy to hold on to this position as TY actually sends his SCVs back to mining. Oh, okay, that was a good shot. That was a great shot. But he sent his SCVs back to mining. It's no longer that much of an all-in. A couple Zealots trying to decrease that SCV count aren't doing too good of a job of it. It's 52 workers or 45 SCVs, but 3 base to 2.
Yeah, it's weird, right? Because it almost feels like ShoWTimE has held, but he still needs to clean up this army. He's going to charge it now, use some of the charge on the order turret, so that's not a great start. Now these Zealots are slowly wandering into the rest of the bio. Is it enough from TY? Disruptor shot will stop the bio, chasing down the Zealots as they decide to back away. ShoWTimE still just on 2 bases. And yeah, TY mining back at home, worker count is good enough. And yeah, I guess ShoWTimE really is on the timer to get something done. Else, down a base here is going to be in trouble.
What a weird game. We see double upgrades. You see all this like powering to a macro game, and then he SCV pulls. Didn't build an armory, didn't build up to... I think he went to 56 SCVs, actually. So nothing past 60. And then when he SCV pulls, he does enough damage to say, actually, no, I am going to macro. Something that ShoWTimE I probably was not expecting. He figured it out, of course. And he saw that no immediate push was on the way. But what a wonky game. Probably the best reaction, though. ShoWTimE, he was relying a lot on charge lots and disruptors, so he doesn't have a big stalker ball to try and get out in the map with. Maybe some zealot run-bys, maybe. But he needs to worry about protecting a 3rd base that will be very, very weak to either one of these armies because it could be instantly sniped. That's the real worry. It's not very healthy after all. He gets pulled to the left. He does know about the attack on the right, or is guessing the attack on the right, so nice use there of the disruptors. That's actually like blind disruptor usage. He just figured it out.
That's a good call as well, though, right? Just in case that's when TY tries to make his move. Starting to see some of that continued mining from TY now that he's got those SCVs back coming into play while ShoWTimE gets the third base back up. The army supply difference is really starting to come apart a little bit. TY up by about 20 and, you know, still having a good amount of his units from before and still staying on the map, right? Just keeps this so scary. Keeps ShoWTimE always guessing where he needs to be. He kind of goes one way, then he goes the other, and that's the real scary part of this for ShoWTimE right here. He has to blink these Stalkers back or lose a couple, and that's obviously something you can't really afford. You need to keep everything alive right now. But this pressure on is natural with another army pushing to the third.
He can't really afford to... Okay, that's going to be... Oh my god, so close to a good hit in the last second split. Never mind. I was about to say it's going to be hard to use this army against the multi-pronged attacks that TY was setting up, and I was, in the end, right. ShoWTimE almost helped himself out, but probably couldn't take out the army to the left anyways. Charge lots will force a pick up over to the right side. He did try and send some zealots into the third base as well, which is something that he really needed to do a lot of damage with. Like, not just because he needs to... Well, he's at all-in territory right now, but to get TY off his back, and it just never happened. TY had all the room in the world to think about how he wants to engage this army, split concave, split up his armies into drops. Like, it was all on him to make the decisions. In ShoWTimE, well, no more decisions really to be made. Just got to all in at this point. You got +2 at the very least. It's about to finish. But otherwise, you're down 40, 50 army supply. Gotta hope for a magical disruptor hits here.
Zealots from ShoWTimE. I'm gonna go running in. I mean, TY still has a lot of his army across the map, so it's gonna create a bit of a weird, almost base trade-y scenario, but this is, you know, ShoWTimE maybe looking to deny a fourth base while TY is gonna run straight into the natural expansion. So ShoWTimE completely all in with this army, and, well, he wins the first fight, but there'll be nothing to stop this back at home. The only thing that stops this is a recall. If you're recalling, then you're still leaving TY alive on 3 bases while you're down on 1 base, and that's never going to work out for you. So ShoWTimE has to make something happen, and now he's having his disruptors sniped down as well. He just isn't doing enough across the map, which I don't think is too surprising. Eventually, reinforcements are going to win out against something that's not being reinforced at all. And TY is going to take our third map, and he's going to go on to match point first here in this series. TY finding his swing there a little bit again, and just really able to, I think, shock ShoWTimE a little bit with the SCV pull. Kind of shocked me a little bit how that ended up going. And yeah, kind of, I just wasn't expecting the SCVs. I think he was ready to just make a bit of a push, kind of macro up, take a 4th base. Then the SCV showed up CG, and he was ready to go. And ShoWTimE just had nothing really ready to fight it. Like, he was almost ready to fight it, but then also the execution was lacking that little bit as well, coming in from 2 sides, but at the wrong times. And also the Zealots on the backside, I don't know what they charged onto initially, but it wasn't the main portion of the army. So even when they went in early, they didn't do what they could have done. So from there, obviously ShoWTimE fighting an uphill battle, and TY able to take it in the end, closing it out, and now up 2-1, going into our game 4 on Eternal Empire.
Yeah, get ready for that in a second. I spent a long time like hyping up how much of a macro game that could have been for TY to provide all that almost not really faux pressure, not fake pressure, but just pressure that was never as serious as it could have been. It was not a 2-base attack; it was actually a 3CC. Only to figure out, hey, that was actually going to be an SCV pull all along. What a tricky, really dangerous build. Because let's say that ShoWTimE actually had perfect scouting and everything. Like, he was also going to be deceived in one way or another. Either he wasn't going to scout because he was dealing with too many things at once, too many possibilities, or he was going to scout and say, oh, let's take a 4th Nexus, which would have been even worse. Like, it's actually kind of a struggle to think of exactly what ShoWTimE could have done better, except maybe just have, like, the absolute perfect response to everything that hit him, and then also enough Stalkers to continue keeping tabs on the army, because the Stalker count did get kind of low pretty quickly. He never invested so much into them. His sight was on the mass amount of Zealots and getting into Disruptors, which came out just a bit too late to really stop that SCV pool from doing well. Now, as we head into Eternal Empire, we could have a quicker, potentially last game here. Top right as the Blue Protoss, he is ShoWTimE.
Taking on the Red Terror in the bottom left-hand side, TY. But he will not just be in the bottom left, he will also be out to the right. 2 racks proxy, very dangerous, especially because of the fact ShoWTimE is deciding to go for the Reaper wall off here. And by Reaper walling, it really exposes him to that bunker that could potentially go up on the low ground. And then obviously you can actually maybe depower the gateway, depower the cyber core. And that can get very tricky. ShoWTimE will not see these racks dropping down as his probe goes across the map. And TY will get those racks up and running.
Yeah, I mean, checking the low ground is a very good call. A couple of, very aggressive builds start with the barracks there, or even just the bunker, the SCV preparing for a bunker back there, but that's not where TY puts his barracks. Just off to the side of where a probe would be scouting, unless the scout took some time on the Zelnaga. Now, he will see the lack of the barracks, but you want to see the gases as well, and he sees a second gas making. He knows by that especially it is actually a proxy, or first gas making, you should say. He is actually going to be proxied, no barracks in sight. His Cemex cord already started, and his Zealot is started immediately as well. So this is a good start. He would love to see what type of attack it is, but now that he knows the gases, how late that second one, darn it, the first one was. He should know that it's not Reapers, at least not first, right? Could be Marines into Marauders. We've seen some of that, but this is a fine start, stopping the STVs from immediately placing down that bunker. Zealot's going to pop out when the support of the probes could take on the Marine.
Yeah.
Or at least push it back to take on the STV.
Any delay on the bunker is great, right? Because it just means less and less likely it's going to get up. And the bunker is the big deal here. If that bunker goes up and the racks comes across for high ground vision, then you really do just guaranteed, more or less, lose this gateway. Or you have to invest so much into not losing it. Stalker is out here, and so the STV has to back away. He'll stay alive, but is he really going to get that bunker up? Probably not. Can he get this one up? Maybe, if ShoWTimE just kind of sits on the high ground. He will come adventuring down with the Stalker, though, to see what is going on. And well, again, it's not the Marine as TY tries to go up the ramp. The Zealot taking a bit more damage, but Stalker number 2 is about to be here. Plus, there's a shield battery nearby. And these Marines should not really do too much else, as TY is already going into the factory back at home. And so was the thing with the 2 racks as he gets a Stalker kill. The 2 racks is generally a pressure into the ability to expand and transition, more so than a full-on all-in. Did he do enough with this pressure? That remains to be determined. I don't really think so, because it feels like he got very little actual damage done, considering he lost all of his Marines, etc. too. Feels tough. And ShoWTimE now expanding again, still no expansion. The only really good thing for TY is that factory is up a bit faster, is already up, I suppose, and the starport's already on the way. I need some damage from that. He actually gets this bunker up in the end, which is also, I guess, a bit of a shock. I didn't expect that to actually finish, so bunker up, Marines get onto the Nexus, and able to deal some good damage.
Yeah, I don't think ShoWTimE was expecting that bunker to actually be finished either. That is very, very obnoxious, especially after he spent a Stalker to save it, to save the Nexus from being harassed like this, or straight up even canceled. Shield battery number 2 and number 3, that's already an investment that TY has forced out as well. And at the factory back at home, he either could have made defensive units if he thought that there was an opportunity for ShoWTimE, or just continue with the aggression, which is what he's doing. Hellion and a medevac on the way out, going to salvage the bunker, take what he can with it. Second shield battery should be finished, or canceled, exactly. And he will finally be pushed back. But TY, he's not going to stop like the pressure, it feels like. I mean, he might have to temporarily, but he did not put that command center on the low ground. He put it on the high ground. He can build a bunker, and he can still do a drop. Yeah, which is what's going to happen here.
Hellion, 2 Hellions and a Widowmine are going to be the choices. He'll go for that into the main, so it means he doesn't really have a lot of defensive units on the ground. I do feel like ShoWTimE just running up this ramp is obviously going to have, well, could have had an okay time. The bunker finishing obviously makes that a little bit of a different scenario. So Stalkers can just sit here. I mean, obviously ShoWTimE's up, mining on a natural expansion, up 11 workers already. This double Hellion and Widowmine, they really need to get work done. The plus side of this is a lot of what ShoWTimE has is across the map. There isn't really much back at home in this mineral line to defend, so that's the positive. These Hellions could get a lot done.
Well, they're gonna get a sentry. I mean, that's also pretty worthwhile, because the Widowmine could take out the sentry or the probes. Like, either way, he's gonna take out a unit and some probes. Stalker warped in a little too close to that Widowmine. The sentry actually survives, as no focus was made on it, and it is going to gain energy, not just for force field or what have you, but hallucination, since ShoWTimE's still a little bit in the dark. He did pump out a warp prism, not an observer, which if he was not attacked right there, I think he would be trying to use across the map. Now that he's dealt with the drop pretty much, he can always micro away from the Widowmine. He could try and go across the map, but he's actually going to go for a disruptor drop. That's actually much cooler. Disruptor drop with the Warp Prism speed. Still lost 7 probes. It's going to keep him at 9 workers ahead, though, with the command center only just landing for TY. It's okay. I'm much more interested in what the Disruptor drop can do. Loose Nation's going to see exactly what the setup is here. See tank production, no Cyclone to catch the Warp Prism, no Widow Mine. That's straight open, both in natural and main, for the Disruptor to do damage.
Which is nice. Just gives ShoWTimE full information as to what he can maybe get done here. TY has a Liberator going across the map, so that's obviously something to watch out for as well. As you see, this Warp Prism coming across is going to get the drop into the natural, and yep, well out of range of the tank there. Gets 3 SCVs, just tags a couple extra that were on the tail end of what was running away. And this Widowmine drop comes back in, but well handled by ShoWTimE, just the 1 probe loss, and Stalker's position well to deny the Liberator. And TY will not be allowed any further damage at all, so ShoWTimE defends well throughout the game so far, 7 minutes in, and talking about a ShoWTimE able to start moving in towards Colossus, and okay, maybe he can't as he gets a Disruptor shot on 1 Marine here. Maybe he can't take the 3rd base super quickly, but again, he's playing that Colossus style, so he doesn't necessarily need that super fast 3rd base. We talked a bit about this back on Everdream.
We did, yeah. I mean, typically with Colossus, you're expecting later 3rds or later upgrades or both, depending on the scenario. The other interesting thing that can happen is like whether they choose to add on Blink and do the slow build-up of a very complementary army, or actually try and skip the Blink and not have any anti-air, really, and go right into that charge. I mean, if it's Phoenix, Stargate first and the Phoenix cover for that Blink, but if not, we would expect the Blink. Without that, that is a weakness of our boy ShoWTimE, but his ground army is stronger. Like if TY thinks he's going to take just a direct engagement by bringing his tanks forward in his bio, it's not going to work out as well as he was hoping. Good Disruptor shot, getting 6 SCVs, is going to be pushed away finally by the Viking, taking advantage of the the tanks not being able to shoot into each other is always nice.
Sorry, that just made me giggle a little bit.
Yeah,
jumps right on top of the tank and goes for the mineral line. It's a fun play from TY.
It is mech. Okay, very important to note here. But also, I really think that ShoWTimE's making the right call by not going for Blink, at least not first. If this was going to be a tank push, but whether it's actually going to be a push or not, I don't think it is. It would be kind of one of those like, yeah, I can totally do damage. No, just kidding, not really. It is going to be more on the turtle side of things. As a mech player, it's what we do. Maybe more so expect. We are talking about Terran versus Protoss mech, which is always a bit weird. Kind of questionable if it's actually good or not, especially if the Terran player doesn't have like a head start in the game. But we're going to watch another mech game unfold for the potentially last game of TY. This is what he did against Hearthstone.
Yeah, he loves mech on Eternal Empire. There's just the setup on this map, he really feels like he can make it work, because he'll lose a siege tank here, but hey, he gets a Disruptor, so he's able to get some damage at least. So the setup that makes this work is obviously the ability to take again, as always with Eternal Empire, 5 bases come fairly easily on this map, especially with a mech army where you can really just set up a defense across the front of the 4th, and okay, you need a bit up on the high ground to defend the 5th base, but once you're at that position, you're already kind of pretty easy to rotate into location, etc. And what's really good for TY in this game is that because ShoWTimE went Colossus initially, he doesn't have that kind of charged lot Blink Stalker setup where you can really just mass units and hit a timing to really overrun the mech play as it gets established. So it means that TY will find his way into the mech army quite comfortably and into the later stages, whereas a lot of the Protoss players, they really do like to, get aggressive, get the Warp Prisms into the 3rd base and just continue to pump out Zealots and Stalkers all the way through the game and just kind of, look to break the mech and player down. ShoWTimE, we'll see what he does to approach the game from here on out with the Colossi in play. What I'm really interested in if this goes mega late game. I did see ShoWTimE playing some kind of like carrier disruptor styles going into super late game against mech, and it's a very fun one to watch unfold because it's a bit of a unique comp that you don't see all the time.
It's one that we were talking about yesterday with Hearthstone versus TY, because we did actually have a game go into like late stages. Shockingly, but it did. And that's what's going to work against Thors that pop out, especially if, again, we're talking way into the future, but that's probably more so what we're talking about is future late game PvP.
Yes.
As you were talking about, without that blitz, without the bulldog of Charge Lot Archon, Blink, like you're probably not going to be able to bust this down. Say probably because ShoWTimE looks like he's setting up to try. but I don't know about that. So if we're talking super late game, that is an ideal composition against the Thors. If we're talking battle cruisers, it's a bit different, of course. But TY very importantly did not go battle cruisers at any point, given his lead against Hearthstone, given how long the game went on. So I'm more inclined to believe they might end up on that carrier disruptor that ShoWTimE apparently has shown in the past. So I think that he might have a handle on this. Obviously, he's seen what it is. He knows what he wants to do here. He's planning. He's the one that's in control of the map, of the game, because TY is just turtling here. The Colossus can't help. I know some Protosses do like Colossus against mech. Mm-hmm. I mean, there was even one point where it was the general advice, but I always was like, yeah. I mean, is it good? And then there was a GSL game weeks or months ago, I think, that it just didn't look good at all. But usually it's more of a question of who had the advantage early on for me. The mech player does. They don't get attacked early on. They get to a fourth base very easily. I feel a bit better for that late game mech push. If it's the Protoss player who got to do what they wanted to do, and that's this game, then it feels so much better for the Protoss. I don't know, TY, he wants to make mech work, man. He wants to go back to the Brood War days.
Yeah. In fairness, he's been making mech work on this map and this matchup since December or so. For the past half year, he really, I think it was the WSG qualifiers, he played a ridiculous 25-minute game on this map against Trap with mech. It was the first time we really saw kind of Cyclones and Widowmines being involved a bit more in mech versus Protoss. And he's really kind of consistently gone back to it and altered how he plays. You don't see so much of the Widowmines as early anymore as he was going for. All that thought, because here we go, fight on this high ground position. TY kind of needs to hold here because that is his fourth base. He has no other base already set up. Gets an anti-armor missile. The few Vikings will do well to chase the Colossi. Will not get any kills, but forces them back. And the tanks holding their own and able to keep ShoWTimE from really continuing to press on through.
That was a bit awkward. I mean, I actually had a bit of faith in ShoWTimE's army. It was well upgraded. It has a lot of Archons. But it came in about as single file as it could. He tried to split it towards... Okay, that's awkward. He tried to split it towards the end, but that actually just made a bunch of Archons not even, try and fight. And then he used them to kill the Vikings, which was an okay, addition. But anyways, that concave is not going to be good enough. It's the general point. TY was sieged up in time to use the choke, and ShoWTimE doesn't get a bust there. He is still going to be the superior economy to replace trades like that, though, especially because he saved all of his Colossus. But if he doesn't bust there and TY gets maxed out with a planetary, he's probably not going to bust the army with ground. Not until TY tries to either move out or take a fifth base, right? So it's good that he is already set up with a Stargate and now adding on a fleet beacon and upgrades as he realizes my time to... maybe stop the ground mech from happening. I mean, maybe it's kind of over. Need to transfer over into that air. I think he'd be right about that. No reason to stop posturing, of course. Keep scaring TY, but I think it's on to bigger and better units. Yeah.
Keep him on edge, and you keep him kind of guessing. You keep him sieged up. It means that TY gets less opportunities to run across the map and get a siege position. It really just buys you the time to get up on those Stargates and play your later game. And this TY will have to start responding to that soon once he realizes what's up. I mean, ShoWTimE really going for the DT blinks. He's going for all the harassment he can. Really just going to keep TY. He's just really looking to punish that TY army for being a less mobile composition, and we're going to take advantage of that. Nice anti-armor missile placed on top of the army again, but it's not like Bio where you can be like, oh, cool, let's go jump on that now. You have to slowly push your tanks through, and obviously plenty of time for ShoWTimE to just disengage and not worry too much about the anti-armor.
Yeah, Southside tanks were a nice touch to keep his SCVs alive. I mean, ShoWTimE really was just looking for any little thing that was never going to snowball into an actual push with the setup that TY had. Get scanned on the main base to determine how this game is going to go. We do have a fusion core, and I actually do hope it's for battlecruisers. As much as he didn't go battlecruisers was that game versus on that game versus Hearthstone, I thought it was the better option. He probably could have killed Hearthstone actually, but if he was going to go into a 20-minute game, why not go battlecruisers? And I was maybe considering TY didn't think it was the best thing. Now that I see him doing it, I'm okay, yes, agreed. I am glad I am in line with one of our best pro gamers ever. Battlecruisers late game is very good. If he gets up to, let's say, 7 battlecruisers, I feel very confident for him.
Yeah, definitely a cool way of going about it. One I haven't seen so much in mech lately. It feels like lately everyone was sort of oh, carriers, I'm going to start building Thors, but yeah, as I was saying earlier, I was talking about carrier disruptor, right? And that really is shut down by... that really does shut down the Thor play a lot. The BC is a bit of a different way to go about, maybe a bit more difficult to get to, but like you say, if you get there, it can be very scary. Let's see, as this fourth base is really essential to keep alive. You do not want to be losing mining here. As TY, you need to keep this economy up and running, especially if you're going to afford all those BCs, expensive units. And yeah, we're going to really get down to the nitty-gritty late game. As a big scan gets to see the carrier production, so TY knows exactly what's going on ShoWTimE side of the map, and he will introduce a couple of Thors into his game. But again, still mostly going to be looking toward the battle cruisers.
Yep. If you guys want to go ahead and, take a quick bathroom break, it's probably time to do it. We are waiting for them to trade out their ground armies bit by bit and go into carrier versus Thor. And then we can see the big explosions and see which army is better. TY, so many Hellions looking for a bunch of run-bys. They were actually caught by the army. That's nice, because you still want the superior economy. No one's quite at that just I don't give an F bank yet. They might get there eventually, though. So good denial on the harassment, but every single upgrade on the way. The one thing about the battlecruiser transition is that the upgrades were not preemptive to them. You didn't start +1 ship instead of +3 vehicle. Thinking, oh, that's my ultimate goal. So that's the only thing I would say about the battlecruisers not being as strong as they can be. But I guarantee they're going to eventually get their ship weapons as well. He's adding on drilling claws, which can be really nasty. This engagement's going to be very difficult for ShoWTimE. So him getting Storm or Disruptors, try at least take those out of the equation is still kind of important. Obviously, you can't be giving away battlecruisers, but you also shouldn't be giving away battlecruisers. Do you know how teleport works, TY?
The moment you start losing BCs, it becomes very expensive, very difficult to replace. You're going to see a bit of a fight breaking out here. This is where the Thors are quite important to have that little bit of extra something to help push back the carriers, because the BC count won't get that high that quickly. So really important to get the Thors up as well. That little bit of extra anti-air. Also getting into drilling claws, so we'll get into towards maybe some Widow Mines here at some point. Maybe help clean out some of the interceptors at times. And as we do have TY, slowly but surely build himself up into all of those bases that ShoWTimE was doing so well initially to not let TY have. But now, ShoWTimE's not really had a choice. TY has been able to push this army forward, and that's exactly why Mech works so well here on Eternal. But here we go from two sides. ShoWTimE is going to go for this fight. Lots of matrixes across the carriers, so a lot of them not able to join in properly there for a while. And TY will hold this position with relative ease, considering that was a full flank from two sides.
He's actually a little bit concerned about going into the mass battlecruisers, as of yet. He was dedicating quite a few minerals and cast on the battlecruiser production, but now kind of fully transfers over into the Thors. Not confident yet. The carrier count was started before he started his battlecruisers, right? It was something that ShoWTimE could afford faster.
Yeah.
And it's very important that he actually uses this advantage while he can. And ShoWTimE's actually showing real mastery over dealing with a mech player, because he could have easily just been I have to wait till I have X number before pushing in. This is probably better off. UTY is actually going to go for a ground-based kind of counter here, looking to kill some of the Nexus. His trades for his own orbitals going down. More battlecruisers are on the way, more Thors are on the way, but he's not quite there yet. But ShoWTimE is also going to start losing Nexus and probes if he doesn't recall.
Yeah, TY absolutely needs time, so the counterattack is great because it's going to deny economy for economy while he gets the time to really build up here. This planetary surviving a while, and the BC's showing up to help push this back, so he'll lose this space. The problem for TY is he's never been comfortable enough to just add a bunch of command centers all at once. So he doesn't have those instantly replacing command centers like Terrans so often have. And now there's the recalls. These carriers are going to come through, and they're going to start shutting down this tank Hellion army, so TY loses what he has on the upper left side of the map. And that's a lot of units going down here as our Stalkers, the Archon, they are coming through. They're going to clean up a couple of tanks on the top side as well. And TY, has he bought himself enough time? And if he has bought himself enough time, doesn't matter anyway, because he's lost a lot of his eco still. Right now he's on the 4 bases he originally had. He just counterattacked with the BCs at least, so he's going to get some damage across the map. And that's obviously big for him as he will maybe get another Nexus, maybe drop ShoWTimE to 5 bases, but I just don't think that's enough. He really needs to get rid of these carriers.
This is still going to be a problematic position for ShoWTimE to move into. He's definitely capable of taking out the right side bases, but up a choke, that's a little too much there. Liberators are going to siege up. Anti-air missile is going to be put down. TY gets another couple of seconds to build up his count of battlecruisers and Thors and get his Widow Mines in position. Anti-air missile is beautiful on top of those carriers, giving all of these units a greater chance to take them on. Upgrades also looking nice for TY on the armor, especially. Battlecruisers simply do not die alongside Teleport Micro. Yamada's going down as the carriers try to retreat, and ShoWTimE is not able to get another base for a base. He actually loses 3 in total, where TY is rebuilding his 5th and might be able to move over his 6th. Actually, repositioning, not a bad call at all. I don't think TY was anticipating this. He was a lot of position.
In the meantime, though, ShoWTimE is taking the top 2 bases once again, so that's still going to be something of an issue as the Widow Mine's helping them clean out the interceptors. The BCs are just going across the map, though, and it wasn't so long ago, I don't think, that ShoWTimE used that recall. So BCs going across might be difficult to get rid of, and if you can't get rid of these, recall's on cooldown for just a few more moments. So if you can't get rid of these BCs, you're going to lose another base, maybe even a couple by the time you get across. But of course, it costs TY nothing because he just teleports away in the end. And that's what you were talking about earlier. This isn't quite the 7 you mentioned, but 6? Yeah, you can already start picking off bases, dealing damage. You can get away very easily. You can see the recall comes in, the BCs are just going to shoot and move. And now they should teleport away to safety. They're going to drop the Yamatos before they go. That costs him a BC. It doesn't really kill off anything.
No. I mean, it's actually scrappy enough that this is still a very complicated game, right? Like, they both have taken out economies. They both have traded out some of their capital ships, or at least one, I guess in the case of TY. Some more Thors have gone down. But it never got to a point where it was just like, yeah, me, battlecruiser, Widow Mine, and you have to defend, or you have to attack into me, and I just sit there. They both have had to exchange blow for blow, which I still favor the increasing battlecruiser counts, but I really like that ShoWTimE has tried to actually play this in more ways than just, I will try to headbutt you and hope that works out. Repositioning, taking the base all around Eternal Empire, that's the way to do it. But is it running out of time? The battlecruisers with only 1 dying are starting to do that snowball. The whole point is that they don't usually die, so they very quickly suddenly become unmanageable because you realize, oh, there's 10, there's 12, there's 14, and interference matrix.
Ooh.
And Yamatos are almost free in these situations.
Yeah.
You can maybe still teleport away from some of these battlecruisers, but some of them actually, I think, were on cooldown. He does lose 1 more.
Yeah, that's
a couple of Yamato trades.
The Yamatos were definitely good, but obviously losing out on the BCs, and it's the sort of game where you really need to just keep the BCs alive more than anything else. ShoWTimE adding on 10 DTs, and I really feel like for all the time we've had DTs and Blink in play, we haven't really seen them have like a major effect on any base or like a lot of harassment that you'd expect to see, maybe see. As TY is going to stay maxed out, just about holding out on 5 bases that have been heavily mined out at this stage. We still have the top 2 left bases from ShoWTimE fresh and new, and that's why he's building up such a high bank, as ShoWTimE will have the BCs once again heading to his side, but there's recall not on cooldown, but his army's close enough that might be able to just deal with it. He just blinks in, that Planetary is just going to straight up die, no detection at the start. Alright, TY just doesn't have a scan, or just doesn't have the numbers anyways, even if he did. That's a good harassment from ShoWTimE, taking down a much needed base from TY, even if it is only on half the minerals now.
Ooh, and that choke is no longer being used by the entire army. A lot of it's still over the right side. Looks like that's going to be a good enough response from TY. Plus, he has the battlecruisers top left, making ShoWTimE trade a base for a base. But he has now found the army a little more out of position than usual. Tank's going to try and take on these stalkers not too poorly at all. And anti-armor still on top of the carriers, as well as the teleport is available for the battlecruiser. ShoWTimE really has to make sure to remember that and not over-dedicate here. But he's lost that top left base. He's lost some probes. He's about to lose a lot more with, I guess, his 6th base also going down. But TY, can he actually take the main engagement? The army supplies are still pretty darn close. But ShoWTimE's even working on those shield upgrades. It's scary. It's still so scary for both sides. But it's TY who's starting to really struggle to get these bases replanted, where ShoWTimE, 2,200 minerals in the bank. He could double expand once again.
Kind of felt like maybe that was an opportunity mentioned to maybe teleport with the BCs. He like teleports on the carriers while they're kind of out of interceptors. Oh. Maybe he could have got a full clean out. Carriers are very, very slow to rebuild. And that would have been maybe a great way to make it happen. And as you do see, the BC is still hanging out to the left-hand side. They're just going to slip away from those stalkers. So they will make it back home. They're going to blink in, and they will just not get one. And as TY does a blink of his own with those BCs, teleporting them just far enough to get out of trouble.
It is a type of blink. He hasn't really been repairing his battlecruisers so much, so I'm glad to see him repairing that very, very weak one. But it's actually, at this point, a cost of gas. Like, he just can't replace that. If he was ever able to get one more base fully mining again, I'd feel so much better, as he would have also been increasing his battlecruiser count, but he's been capped out on the number we've seen for the last 3 minutes. Good Yamatos once again, but another sacrifice of a battlecruiser. I mean, ShoWTimE His trades aren't like, the most amazing. He is still losing out when he pokes in like that, but his economy is so much more amazing that this is still okay for him. But I've certainly seen enough situations where that enough battle cruisers, we're not massed yet, but enough battle cruisers decently protected do end up taking the better trades, right? And we do see the slow comeback of the mech player. That could still happen here. But ShoWTimE is really trying his best to not let that happen, to deny him any extra bases.
Yep, ShoWTimE doing a very good job of... he's always been multiple bases ahead, right? And even when it came to base-on-base trades, it always felt as though ShoWTimE was left with more incomes remaining, or he either had just more already in the bank, so he was able to kind of absorb the damage of losing the bases. And now it really is at a point where TY... I think it's fair to say is on his last army. 100 gas, 300 gas per minute mining. It's not enough to really rebuild. But it's a final army that's against, a heavy Stalker count. So the Stalkers aren't as high tech as some of the other units we've had in this game. So it almost feels maybe more engageable or more fightable than before. As we do see Storms dropping down here, and ShoWTimE going to choose to go up the ramp in towards the natural and then attack along from there for a few moments before backing away. BCs are back across the map, but again, at this point, what do? You've got so many bases you need to kill, and the BCs can only kill so many, and they can kill the entire right side, and ShoWTimE would still be completely fine having the top left in play.
Yeah. It is pretty impressive that so much army is gone from these defenses, yet he can still defend. Power to Eternal Empire. And, notable that their army supplies are pretty similar, despite the overall supply looking quite different, of course, but... Yeah, TY knows how to make this work on the desperate scenarios. He just really needs another base. Really, really, really needs it. ShoWTimE, one thing that I think that could be good for TY as well is to use some of these Blue Flame Hellions to actually harass. It feels like ShoWTimE's been getting away with just Nexus and no additional cannons a lot of these times, because why bother? Battlecruisers kill them anyways. But the Blue Flame Hellions could have also helped out. That engagement actually just went really well for TY. He lost another base though.
Yeah.
So is it worth the another orbital down? He's down to literally 2 orbitals.
Yeah, he has so little remaining, and there's still just units back at home from ShoWTimE that I think are going to carry him through this. He's just warping in more and more Stalkers. He's out of his, ShoWTimE spent his bank. If TY can just find maybe a little bit more for a little bit longer, it's just so tough. Especially against all of these Stalkers, these BCs are going to be hard-pressed to really fight those. If they blink in and start 1 or 2 shotting BCs down, then you have a problem as TY. There goes 2 BCs right from the start. And those are, again, BCs that are never really going to get remade in this game, down to only 4 battle cruisers. One of the big threats that TY continue to have throughout this. Down 90 supply overall in ShoWTimE. Really looking as though he might take us to, again, number 5.
I absolutely think that he will. He's even got a couple disruptors for these Thors. He's tired of them holding, but they were desperately all-inning anyways. Or maybe not all-inning, they were trying to take this left base. It doesn't matter. The point is he put himself out on the map, which is something that ShoWTimE can try and take advantage of. Even gets one of the last orbitals. Like, oh man, this never got to that point where a mech player could comfortably rebuild all of his command centers and just have tanks fending everywhere. ShoWTimE made sure that didn't happen. He caught TY right before he was at that point, that like, oh my God, why is this a thing point? And I really respect ShoWTimE for that. But he's also really respecting TY right now by not just remaxing and trying to win. He's up 100 overall supply, he's doubling the army supply, and he's still respecting Battlecruiser Tank Thor.
He sees the top left. He's going to try and get this Nexus. ShoWTimE just going to keep on base trading and saying, well, you take my top left, I'll take your bottom side. I still have a bottom right base here somewhere along the way. There's just no way for TY to properly make this. It is crazy just how safe ShoWTimE is being. But it's almost like any decision's the right decision anyway. It feels like going to fight this would be right. Base trading is right. Yeah, just TY doesn't really have a way to make it work. Obviously, TY can't draw a game out. There is anti-air for ShoWTimE. TY has no base left, so this is just it. As you will, you just don't want to base trade. So I don't actually know what the plan is. That's the plan. It's a GG. Get out of there. To give game 4 to ShoWTimE. We are going to go to a game 5 for the first time today.
So happy about it. TY, I still think the Battlecruiser move is a good move. Before anyone, starts comparing this one in the game versus Hearthstone, I still think that was the right move. But ShoWTimE really was very excellent. He didn't just throw army after army and then go, oh no, I need to go into carriers. He calmly planned out the carrier transition and then used the carriers with still a sizable ground army to make TY make sure he didn't just build 3 Battlecruisers at a time. That's when things are like, if the Terran's just like, yep, you cannot kill me, I am good to go, then more and more the carriers look lamer and lamer as you try and trade them out. But he stopped them just before that happened. Imagine if that attack on the right side didn't actually bust those 2 planetaries he was planning to build in the right base and the bottom right base. And those were actually mining. That is significantly different. That's no longer just the cap of 8 Battlecruisers we saw. That is 11, 14, 15. And that is a much more difficult count, along with all the bases he could still be mining from. So it's really cool to see. I love seeing TY try and experiment with mech, and that is showcasing how it can be strong. But I also love that ShoWTimE was like, no, bad mech player, don't do that. We are going on to Nightshade for the final game here. And this is the map that he did mech against Hearthstone. It's worth noting.
Yeah. Should be a fun map, Nightshade. I always feel like has a really cool dynamic in TVP. It really feels like the sort of game where it's those kind of like army clashes that you never really want to take because someone's always fighting up or down a ramp or through the choke point into a position. Mm-hmm. So definitely makes it quite interesting in that regard. I'm feeling it for Nightshade. I feel like this could be a good 1ZG to wrap up this TY ShoWTimE series here in the lower bracket. Of course, one of these players is about to go home. Well, they're already at home, but they're about to leave the tournament. And the other will continue advancing through the bottom side. So let's see what the outcome will be. ShoWTimE and ShoWTimE and TY. I was about to say YouTube TY on Nightshade for game number 5 as we get this ready to get underway.
Yeah, I've almost done that so many times. I am with you. I clearly know who TY is. I've only cast this game for like 9 years. And the fact that he put YouTube in front of it, I'm just like, YouTube. Nope, that's not what it is. What is it about it? All right, final match. Nightshade, bottom right. That is the red Terran. He is TY.
In the top left, blue Protoss player is ShoWTimE.
I love you mentioning that they're at home. So it's more like instead of go big or go home or someone's going to be sent home, it's more like someone's going to be, putting their hands down, be dejected and kind of go through the replay and just be sad the rest of the day. Like that doesn't ring quite as well as go big or go home.
Go big or go watch the replay on your own.
Yep. Doesn't work out as well. But that's that's the society we're living in right now. We live in a society, Wardy. We just got to stay at home all the time. Isn't that great?
Yeah, it's great if you just like cast on StarCraft and do nothing else.
Yeah, which, hey, that's most of what we do, right?
Works out okay for us.
Good, yeah. TY, he was it's funny, he went for Battlecruisers in that mech game he played. Maybe he plays mech again here. We'll see about that, but hasn't thrown out the Battlecruiser like attack that we saw him use. Would have loved to have seen that as well. Nor has he thrown out the one base aggression that we saw him and Innovation use in different tournaments. I don't know if he just thought that would be too obvious after already using it in his TDP. His ShoWTimE would have asked Hearthstone, like, what do you think he did wrong against it, right? Or if he just maybe is like, I think ShoWTimE's an even more difficult player than Hearthstone. There's maybe a bit more respect. Maybe they've faced each other a little more often. I mean, ShoWTimE, how often does he play in the Korean server? He's been over to Korea once, right? Or twice.
I mean, he will have played there when he went to TSL vs. the World and stuff like that a few times.
Yeah, I don't think they actually played that many times. I don't know why I keep thinking that they are not like, they're not enemies or rivals or anything like that, but I think it's just me and ShoWTimE and Korean Terrans.
They just make like a good match, right?
I guess that might be it as well. Yeah, I'm just excited and wiggly jiggly for the super strategic Korean Terran against this like the wall, right, for Europe that is ShoWTimE. Like, maybe it's that. ShoWTimE is really mixing things up here with a Stargate opener. TY might not have an ability to scout, right? You can go for a Reaper this game.
Yeah, just going to go for a few Marines. This obviously into a reactor. This obviously gives you a good amount, so the early adept shouldn't really do anything here. And ShoWTimE just playing that Phoenix opener just means he's going to have a lot of defense in the early stages. He shouldn't really take much damage to any of the early harassment from TY. Really switching it up from anything that we've seen in previous games.
I am really wondering if it's going to be a Colossus based build. It did so well on Zen, but that might also have been the map and the opening circumstances. He did kind of change things up last game too, by not going for Blink, like going Colossus, but not Blink.
Yeah.
And you finally have the Phoenix possibly into Colossus, so really showcasing the full range of builds here for Protoss. TY eventually will scout this out, of course, with a essentially suicidal Medevac Widowmine drop, but that's the whole point. Medevac, ideally for ShoWTimE, gets bopped by the Phoenix even before it gets to drop down a single Widowmine.
Well, as the Widowmine drop makes its way out onto the map, let's see just where ShoWTimE's Phoenix will be, right? Because obviously positioning is quite important. It's in the main, so it's pretty non-committed. This is really interesting because TY is going for that Liberator again, right? So he's going for exactly what he did on the Everdream when he lost the Liberator, and that Marine tank push didn't do much. With the Phoenix, you really can't keep the Medevac drop out on the map, so that gets forced away. And if anything, TY probably has to bring this all together in one big push. The only thing, I mean, obviously, maybe if you push at the front of the Marines and the tanks, then the Liberator can sneak around into the main base while the Phoenix are out of position. That's great, but this Widowmine drop will not live to do too much. Lifts up 1, lifts up 2, and that's going to be the end of the Widowmine drop here in just a moment. So completely shut down. And that's exactly what you kind of expect to see from the Phoenix.
I don't think TY was planning on moving out, but his Marines were moving to like maybe push back the Adept Shade. He does have to seriously reconsider how things are going here. With the Phoenix taking down his Widowmine drop, he obviously got some scouting from that, but he also just scanned the natural to see how many gases were taken. I think he's figuring out that it's also going to be into Colossus. So that would be typical, seeing that many Phoenix, but still, confirmation is good. But he can't do the Widowmine drop, Liberator harassment into a push. It's just not going to work out nearly as well. He can try and do exactly this, which is sneak that Liberator around, do something. But as he changes up his production into Viking Cyclone that is purely defensive, he's not going to have any timing where he can try and catch ShoWTimE off guard with very few units. I'm just watching his production more so to see if he ever adds on a Tech Lab to the barracks, or if this is another map he's willing to do mech on.
Just feel like obviously TY just didn't know it was Phoenix for so long, and
oh wow,
he is going to go for push. So he's going to go for push now that he's got like a Viking and a Cyclone. It's only a few SCVs though, right? Like 5. So.
Well, this is a terrible start then. Like the thing is, like if he did just the push as is, like I don't know if it's actually going to work. But pulling the SCVs, dedicating to this, even despite going for a third CC, once again we have like the things that usually don't mean push coming down. This actually might be enough. And ShoWTimE already loses a Phoenix. He does have an Immortal with a Colossus on the way, however. Liberator gets past everything. That is going to get a lot of probe damage done, but can he hold in the front lines? Immortal is actually caught a little bit too far forward. Guardian Shield is going to be taken out. The Colossus needs to help out here.
Yeah, you need the Colossus really badly. But there's a couple of Vikings that can help, and obviously the Siege Tank fire can do well also. The Phoenix would love to lift those tanks up to take them out and to really stop them from firing on the Colossus, but it's just going to be very tough to do that. Obviously the Colossus has no range, so it's just stuck, and if it wants to even fight those bunkers, it's going to be in tank range, which is part of the problem. And TY gets set up out the front. He sends a couple units across to deny the third base from Manning, just making sure there's no probes there. And TY, just pulling the SCVs almost out of nowhere and going for the full-on frontal attack. He's lay on his production behind this, but as he tries to burst out ShoWTimE, his Phoenix get taken down very quickly. Is it enough as the Disruptor will find a group of Marines? He loses the Colossus, but the tank will go down. But Marines are getting into the bunkers, one of which finished. The second one finishes now as well. ShoWTimE is just not quite holding on, but might clean it up. But after a huge amount of losses, if anything, another tank is here. And that's going to be huge.
Those tanks didn't die as quickly as he thought he would because his Immortal actually couldn't get past all the units in front of it to shoot him, I think. Like, I saw one shot go off, but otherwise it was kind of derping around. The Disruptor does live off to the right side, but it's not going to get a shot off as it gets taken out by that tank. Another Disruptor's about to pop, and now the Robo is in danger. It's going to get a shot in the Vikings as TY. He lifts a little bit late, It's a couple of Marines and that Viking, but ShoWTimE, with that pull of all of his units, he really thought he was going to be able to at least break it, at least stop all the bunkers from finishing, right? Instead, we have one bunker still alive. The other one providing a bit of like anti-surface area, right? And the Immortal is so low that even just coming forward for a second doesn't work out. He's got to depend on a slow process of dealing disruptor hits on top to push this back. And he finally does, but it lasted so much longer than it was supposed to. For all the sacrifices he made with trying to bust it down. That was really neat by TY. Very decisive to go for the SCV push. Pull those as well. And can't forget the Liberator also got the probes in the main base. So ShoWTimE, still 3 Nexus, but at a lesser worker count than his opponent, who was on 3 CC. The best news for him is that Stim and Combat Shields is significantly late. So the next push isn't going to happen for a while. Yeah, I think he really wanted to deal with that push much faster.
Yeah, it's just the continued damage over a large period of time as he pulls the Vikings kind of towards the Nexus, almost like he thought this was a Liberator, and then they're still just in Viking range, so he loses a lot of them. And ShoWTimE is just not mining how he wants to, and of course this all powers up the next push from TY, which he's already up on 5 racks, with her third CC came up behind this as well. As soon as Stimpack and Combat Shields are here, these bio attacks are going to be so difficult to deal with, and especially on a map when you can like drop the natural, push the third at the same time, and really draw the Protoss from one side to the other. It's going to be so tough to deal with, especially if the tanks get sieged like to the right of the third base or something. It's going to be really tough to break out of and fight into. And ShoWTimE, yeah, just wasn't able to clean it up easily right away, and part of that probably is because of what he lost when those units first moved out from the natural.
Yeah, that was already, it was a bad start into a difficult hold, but much worse because of it. ShoWTimE, had he not taken any more worker damage, I actually believe could have a strong shot at taking a good engagement, kind of getting safe on 3 bases, stabilizing, but having taken even more damage without much committal from TY, I'm feeling a lot worse. We still have disruptors in the mix. We still have, potential of a concave, catching tanks off guard type of thing, but those are now big dreams. They're no longer something that he kind of needs to get here alongside XYZ. He needs amazing disruptor shots. TY is not too eager to end this game. He's going to wait. I think it's his upgrades. He's going to get Ghost perhaps before he actually pushes out, because he's not the one that's in a hurry here. But with the 4th base increasing, well, not quite a 4th base actually. That is his main lifted over, but still. With 4 bases mining 72 SCVs still working here, that is going to be a scary Terran force, maxing out far faster than ShoWTimE.
Let's see a couple of tanks just getting themselves sieged and just sitting on, well, essentially 4 bases right with that main orbital relocated, waiting for the Ghosts. And wow, I didn't realize TY was missing that +1 attack. That is crazy, right? Just missing the +1 attack upgrade.
Yeah, we'll wait to it.
Yeah, it's this sort of thing where he's already got +1 armor, so it's like he just didn't realize that he didn't start +1 attack. So that's a bit of a shame. But otherwise, across the board, TY should have a good push coming that should be fairly difficult to deal with from ShoWTimE, but he's also given ShoWTimE a lot more time than I thought. So ShoWTimE's been able to get into, a couple of Archons and so on, and some extra tech that may just help him hold off a larger attack like this when it eventually comes across the map. So we'll have to see when TY does attack. Of course, he will be powered up on a lot of Vikings, 4 on the way at the time right now. The Ghost will be out, and that should help him as long as he can take that engagement properly.
He's maxing out faster, but he's getting a lot of expensive units. Now quadruple Vikings, so it's not as fast as I thought it would be. He's also getting an actual 4th, not a 4th that's actually an orbital. He's also doing a quadruple drop into the natural base. Also attacking to the main as well. ShoWTimE has an army to split. And has he split it correctly? Stalker is not too great at buffering for the Colossus. Want more Zealots in here. In fact, one Marauder has a dream of getting this Colossus. Go get him, dude.
Going for it.
Oh. All right, I didn't get it, but that's still a lot of damage on the Colossus. A lot of damage into the natural base. Just a lot of lost mining time, really. And now the attack on the right side, which I think ShoWTimE was anticipating, but eventually had to pull more units to the left side. 2 disruptor shots, 1 going to be okay, but at the cost of disruptor, not necessarily worth it. The next is actually being just clicked on here. It's going to be the sacrifice of the army, but I guess TY is totally willing to do that as he's grabbing his own 4th base, his actual 4th base. Still has 3 orbitals, but the very good news, I would say, for ShoWTimE there He got disrupted on economy. He lost a couple of probes, and of course that gigantic Nexus kill. He didn't actually lose that much army. That Colossus didn't go down. Handful of stalkers. So if he wants to try and bully TY right now, that would probably be the best option. You have to be scared of drops because he doesn't have much map presence. But if he's going to try and take TY's economy down a notch, it's going to be by actually patrolling over the 4th, or 5th, I should say. He just doesn't know about it yet, so his army's in the middle of the map, not doing very much despite its strength. It's a maxed out army to army here, both having the endgame composition you would ideally want, and only one disruptor for ShoWTimE.
The big issue is just how does ShoWTimE rebuild off of this? 61 probes, a late 4th base. If he takes a fight, even if they trade evenly, TY is the one who's better set to rebuild and to go again. So it's not this fight that should be the concern for ShoWTimE. It should be the fight after. And the thing is, ShoWTimE's almost like, well, can I do any damage here? And you look at the tanks that are set up and so on. It's like, well, not on the 4th base. Maybe down towards the 3rd, but he's actually going to spread out and run to the 4th base. That seems wild into all of those tanks, which, okay, he's not really protecting. TY's to pull the SCVs for this fight. I mean, the Colossi just got destroyed in an instant.
Yeah, they did. They weren't well protected. They were about as protected as the tanks that were there that TY just kind of let die, but most of his army was on that high ground, waiting for good EMPs, waiting for the support of the other units, and waiting for the Colossus to actually get killed. The upgrades are even temporarily, but +2 is finishing up here. Enhanced shockwaves also could help if the EMPs are available, and that is on a planetary like it usually is either. A couple tanks move forward again, I think, from the 3rd base as TY is holding. ShoWTimE is in a bit of a danger. Yeah, he's in dangerous position to continue here because EMPs would be available soon. Either more ghosts are popping or they're regaining energy, and his army was very vulnerable to the enhanced EMPs. I'm glad that he pulls back. He's down 30 army supply at the end of this, but he's rebuilding his disruptor counts. He's got his 4th base back up. If only he knew about the left side, I think that would have been an easier thing to try and target, but he did not, so... Actually, TY trying to move out now, get a couple of free kills. His Vikings, useless supply, are now going to be used to kill a Nexus, so definitely not useless. That is a nice snipe.
Yeah, it's a really nice land, and at the same time, ShoWTimE's still trying to fight across the map, as you're going to be seeing a couple of EMPs lined up. Of course, this is basically just an Archon army, so EMPs really just shut it down, and that's why ShoWTimE's army supply basically melts as soon as those shields are gone. Everything else goes down. It means that TY is going to win the series out and keep the dream alive in the lower bracket as he moves through to the next round where he will be playing against Special. So that'll be a TVT in the next round of the lower bracket. And that'll be, I mean, we're really starting to flesh out this lower bracket here as we have the final few matches of today played. I think that that Special TY one with how Special played in TVT earlier in this tournament, taking down Time, taking down Cure. That should be really fantastic to watch.
Indeed. Yes. Yeah. That'll be a nice one. We were already kind of hyping that when we saw Special was being sent down the lower bracket, and it's now come to fruition. So nicely done. Thoroughly enjoyed that TY vs ShoWTimE series. But unfortunately, ShoWTimE does fall. I'm sure many people out there are TY fans, though. Patience wins out truly in that series. Next up, we have...
We stand as one.